Kia ora, g'day, welcome back once again. Really humbled by this email that I've received from this young man. It's got here, I'm going to read it for you. Tēnā koe, Mr. Hōtai. Mr. Hōtai. I'm a Kiwi-born 17-year-old living in Australia. I came across your content after one of my family members sent me a link to one of your interviews on YouTube. I'm emailing you to ask how you were able to get over your fear of public speaking, ? Did you practice by yourself or did you get help, ? Thanks heaps, Mr. Hōtai, and thanks for your service. P.S. I'm asking because I want to join the army also, but I have a real fear of speaking in public. Wow. Man, first part, thank you very much for taking the time, young man. Mr. Hōtai, Joe is fine, but thank you for the polite and respectful communication that you've sent through. I appreciate you taking time. Thank you to your family member, whoever that is, that shared with you a link to one of my interviews. I assume it's an interview or a part of an interview where I'm talking about, or maybe where I've been questioned about my lack of confidence in terms of public speaking. I've spoken about that on other Q&A videos on my channel and previous channels and in some interviews in the past from high school time and that anyway, and just my absolute fear of public speaking and not doing it, taking detention or going to see the principal instead of standing up and speaking in school. You've got here, so coming to your question. So thank you for taking the time. Thank you for your message and for the kind words, at the end as well. How were you able to get over your fear of public speaking? First and foremost, I would say to you is that I wouldn't say that I'm over my fear of public speaking, and that's just the truth. I still get very nervous when it's time to speak in public. Here, what I'm doing right now, creating content, speaking to a camera, or speaking to the lens on my laptop right now, I don't really consider this public speaking because I'm not speaking to a public audience in person, if that makes sense. Yes, there may be a handful of people that might come across my content and maybe they'll take something away from it. Maybe from that perspective, it could be viewed as public speaking. But from my take, public speaking is me or a person standing in front of an audience of people, whether it's a small group of 2 or 3 people or large hundreds or thousands or whatever. That to me is public speaking. So I'm fortunate in terms of this case here where I don't really consider this public speaking. So I'm not over to your question, I'm not over my fear, to your first question, that is, how were you able to get over your fear of public speaking? I wouldn't say that I am, and I don't think that that's a bad thing either. Obviously I'm a bit older now and I'm less inclined to be too fussed or worried about what other people may say or think about me. But when I'm in a room and if I'm given the privilege or the opportunity and or invited to speak, I still get nervous. I am still concerned about how I might come across, how I look, how I sound. Have I got a booger hanging out my nose or whatever? There's all of those sorts of things that still run through my mind. So getting over the fear of public speaking, my answer in response to your first part is that I'm not, and that I don't think that's a problem. I think it's okay to have some concern or even be a little bit anxious or nervous, maybe even a little bit fearful when it comes to public speaking. There probably are many people out there that just have absolutely no fear these days when they go out and speak publicly, and maybe they develop that from a very young age. I think that's awesome. That's incredible for them. I'm not one of those people. I still have self-conscious issues and anxieties and that sort of stuff, and insecurities is probably more like the word I was looking for when I am speaking in public. Even if it's just in a team or staff meeting, I still have some of those. But I've developed enough runs on the board for me that I'm able to hopefully get my messages across in a way that is respectful and also in a way that makes sense to those that I might be communicating to and or with. That's the first part. Did you practice by yourself or did you get help? You've got here. I would say as I've gotten older, I've definitely practiced more on my own. These days, I don't generally practice, I would say, at all. Like, I think a large part of that for me is the reaction videos that I've been doing on my channel. So for me, young man, in terms of doing reaction videos, I think the part that's been really helpful, not so much thinking quickly on my feet, is that reaction videos, I'm forced to give my authentic reaction based on what I'm seeing and hearing, typically like 95, 99% of the time for the first time. And so the words that come out of my mouth hopefully make some sort of sense and hopefully correlate to what it is that I've just been watching or reacting to. So I think that in and of itself has been a huge help. I suppose you could say it's been practicing by myself to a degree, because I'm doing the reaction much like I'm giving my response to your question right now, looking at the lens of a camera, or sometimes looking out and about and around and up and down, here and there and everywhere, as I look to gather my thoughts to answer the questions and or indeed to give a reaction. So I guess you could say that there is practice in what it is that I'm doing, but I tend to not delete or not upload videos based on how poor my performance or my articulatory precision or lack thereof may be. So I tend to just upload my videos anyway, knowing and trusting these days, as I said, a bit older now, so I'm less inclined to worry too much about what other people think or say about how I look or how I sound, etc., even though I still self-consciously want to present, not looking like a bloody, a useless bloody piece of trash. So I still want to present, to a degree, like as well as I can, is what I would say. I shy away from the term as professional as I can, because I don't know that what I'm doing is very professional. And maybe that's just something for me to get over, maybe another one of those insecurities for me. But I suppose you could say that I'm just looking at your question again. Did you practice by yourself? I suppose what I am doing is a whole lot of practice, to be fair. It's a lot of reps in, it's a lot of talking, and it's helpful to me, I think, anyway. And I think it translates well and has been translating well for me when I am in more public spaces and speaking to a group of people, whereby it helps, and it has helped, I think, anyway. You've got, or did you get help? I didn't get any help when it came to public speaking. My help, I think, primarily was observing and looking at other people, trying to take bits and pieces away from what I've seen them do and how they communicate. Maybe it's some of their mannerisms, maybe it's some of the words or choice of words that they use and how they string their sentences together. I don't know. Specifically, like nothing's really jumping out at me, but I'm thinking that maybe these are some things that are subconsciously entering in through my eyeballs, and I'm taking them in and computing them up here, and maybe stuff has been retained till such time as I'm able to then draw upon it and then use it when I'm communicating. So yeah, that's hopefully that's, how were you able to get over your fear of public speaking? I've answered that. Did you practice yourself? I answered that. Or did you get help? I've answered that. Yeah, so I hope that helps. Like, if I can share this last little piece, and hopefully it'll help maybe give some context. It's just maybe it is a bit of a story, but it's not a made up story. Like, this is actually part of my experience and my journey towards trying to communicate better. And maybe it will land on the ears of somebody and help somebody in some small way. But like I said, there are so many people out there who are experts in communication, who do that for a living, who help people communicate better for a living. So, maybe check out their stuff. And if after this, I will look to try to find the link and the screenshot and the thumbnail of that particular person, the guy in Australia, that I'm aware of anyway. But I don't consciously follow him, but I've seen his stuff pop up on my feed from time to time. And I think because I've clicked on some of his stuff, it will continue to pop up on my feed, which I have no issue with. But anyway, back to what I want to share with you. Like, in high school, I didn't speak. I didn't stand up and give any speeches in high school because I was scared of how I would sound, how I looked, what my what my peers, other students would think of me, and the teacher. And so because of that fear, I let that hold me back, and I didn't stand up and speak. It wasn't until I got into the army, and then early days. It might have been day 1, day 2, or whatever. We were in our platoons by then, and I think at one stage we were in this room and we were all instructed and told that we would each one by one have to stand up, introduce ourselves, give our name, where we're from, what we plan on doing in the army, and why we joined the army. 4 simple things. I remember that in terms of the context. It might have been given in a different order in terms of how it was presented, but essentially those 4 things. And I had all the feelings come flooding back to me of high school again, of not wanting to stand up and speak. I gladly took detention in high school. It was either you need to stand up and present your speech, Joseph, or you'll be on detention. I was like, I'll take detention. Not a great attitude, and something, in hindsight, I wish I could change, but I can't. It is what it is, and I took detention, or I went to see the principal and got detention for not standing up and speaking in school. Anyway, fast forward into the army, and when that moment happened and we're in this room and we're told that we're going to have to do these 4 things, I was starting to think of, what could I do to get out of this? Could I pretend to be sick? Could I say I need to go to the toilet and then just stay in there and then try and sneak back into the room, blah, blah, blah. Like, I was really scared of having to stand up on my own and then just do those things. They seem pretty basic, right? Just introduce yourself, where you're from, like that's pretty easy. Then say what you plan on doing in the army. Again, easy. I'm joining infantry. And then why you joined. For right now, at the start of this here, I'd never said in that room that I wanted to join or that I was going to join the SAS. Because when I told my recruit sergeant and it was met with some laughter, I quickly learned that I'm never saying that out loud to anybody again unless I absolutely have to. So I didn't. I don't know exactly what I would have said for that 4th part in terms of why I joined the army, but it probably would have been something along the lines of soldiering and infantry and, that sort of thing. Anyway, I couldn't and I didn't have the confidence to try to execute a toilet stop or pretend that I was sick or whatever, because I thought I probably wouldn't have been able to fake it very well. So I sat there, nervous the whole time, really worried. And then in that moment, I guess as people were standing up and they seemed to be super confident, some seemed to have like just a knack about them to be able to get the room to laugh. Some, added some comedy to their not speech, but to their introduction and what they were doing. Ad-lib, I suppose, is what I would say. And they just seemed very confident. I wasn't one of those people, and I definitely didn't do that. But I had the thought as I sat there. So after I tried to go through some excuses to try to get out of it, and then realized, I'm not going to be able to, I then had this thought that, man, if I want to serve in the SAS, for me, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to be able to speak publicly. And so with that thought, it didn't make me super calm or relax me or anything like that, but it did help. So I understood and realized that where I wanted to go in the army would take not only courage from a physical perspective and the ability to be able to be a good soldier and do things that I needed to do as I started to get a better understanding, but I also thought that I'm going to have to be able to communicate in public and speak reasonably well in order to get my messages across to people. So with that, fast forward, I got up and I was able to say what I needed to say. That stayed with me for the rest of my time on basic training, on core training, and then into battalion, and then once I went on selection, then onto cycle, then once I got into the regiment, and post my time in the regiment. So those sort of, I guess that ended up being sort of 7 fingers I held up, so 7 progressive steps, I suppose, to where I am now, and a whole bunch of other steps in between. So having that, I guess, forced me to a degree. I wasn't actually physically forced in any sort of way, but I use that term forced because that's how I feel it pushed me towards needing to be able to communicate, at least to some sort of level. It may not be anything spectacular or fancy, and it's likely still not like that to this day, but I know I'm a heck of a lot better than where I was last week, last year, etc., definitely than where I was back then as a young 18-year-old in the army who had not given a high school speech because of fear. So I think finding and having those moments whereby something that you're wanting to do is driving you so much that I think potentially there may be other moments, I should say, that may pop up into your head as an example that may cause you to have similar thoughts to what I had, and then just go, okay, this is what I need to do, and then just run with it. And then you'll be surprised at where you end up. Who knows, maybe you end up creating content and being on YouTube. If you're not already doing it, maybe you are, I don't know. But based on your message and stuff here, I would imagine that maybe you're not doing content creation just because, even now for me as an older fella, it is daunting. But it's also, for me, it's exciting and I enjoy it. And I'm very humbled and privileged to receive questions like yours that come through. And I just hope that in some small way, what I've shared here can be of help. Just the last little piece that I would add on to the end of that story and that moment, epiphany moment or light bulb moment, whatever you want to call it, where I knew that I had to be able to speak, that flowed on. On basic, you're exposed to, and I was exposed to seeing the instructors like this, do that, explain, demonstrate, voicing the commands, which we would then be pulled out of our platoon and then instructed to give those same commands, bring our platoon to attention, move them to the right or left in a column of threes, step it off cleanly, full 75 centimeter pace, get the answering going straight through front to rear, pressing down on the forefinger with the thumb, get the bends out of the elbows, like that. That patter and that repetition that I and we were exposed to, at least on my basic training, by the NCOs and the sergeants and the officers from time to time, who took it as their job and their responsibility to train us, to get us to a level whereby we could be competent as soldiers and confident as individuals, really stayed with me, as you can probably tell by the patter that I've regurgitated then from basic 295 here in New Zealand, Aotearoa. And hearing them and the tonality and all of the things, the quirks and characteristics or traits that they would have from the bombardiers through the corporals, through the sergeants, etc. Those things, those memories have stayed with me, but they start to imprint, at least on me, on my mind-wise, in terms of how I needed to use my voice, how I needed to communicate, and the different ways in which I could start to use my voice and communicate and use it as a tool. I think the guy that I'm thinking of in Australia talks about our voice and our communication as an instrument. And that's one of the things that stuck out, even though I can't bloody remember his name, but it will come to me because I can picture him, the Asian guy in Australia. I mean that respectfully, no racism or anything intended by it. But those that know him will probably be able to whack it in the comments when this is up. But with any luck, I'll have it in the description to help you with your journey, because he helps people. That's what he does for a profession, helps people communicate. But coming back to those soldiers that influenced that and then pulled us out and then forced us, I say the word again, forced us to do that and implement it, that was super helpful. And so from a parade ground camp soldier perspective, that was great. Then you start moving into where I felt the heart and soul was of being a soldier out in the bush. And then you have the need and the opportunity whereby you need to use your voice again. Obviously, there's lots of moments where you got to be quiet and kātia te waha, or shut the mouth and be quiet and still. But there's also moments where you have to use your voice once again, like in a camp setting, and give a group range indication type of fire in terms of giving a target indication to try to get your team as quickly and as accurately onto an enemy position as fast as possible. And when you're giving that instruction, it needs to be, I think the acronym was CLAP, it needs to be clear, loud, as an order, and with pauses. So needing to get that information as clearly and as loudly and as accurately to your team, and making sure that there are pauses, or like as accurately and as an order and with pauses, to get your team onto an enemy position. Because when you are training and working to be a soldier, like, you have a bit of an understanding, and the instructors help reinforce that these situations may happen and could potentially be the difference between life and death. So all of those things started to solidify in my mind for me when it came to communicating and all the importance of it. And I've tried to hold on to a lot of those teachings and those examples and those images that I've seen of various people in my life that I think are good communicators. And I am constantly still trying to be better to this day. And that will constantly be the case as I look to move forward. So I hope this helps you, young man. Apologies if it's just been ramblings and you get nothing from it, but yeah, I mean, there's nothing I can do about that. You'll be the judge of that, and I just hope that in some small way it helps you and or potentially anybody else that might come across this video. So anyway, that being said, hey, whatever the challenges are, whether specifically to you as a 17-year-old, if it's fear of standing up and speaking in public, whether you're an older person who has a fear of standing up and speaking in public, man, just lean into it. Just do it anyway. Look up online, look at people and how they speak. Do courses if you have to. I'm sure there are people out there that run courses on, dare I say, articulatory precision and being able to communicate more effectively and professionally. No doubt there are people out there that can help you with that. So if that's something that you feel you want to step into or that you might need to help you, because each of our journeys is different, then do that. If it's something like fear that motivates you or drives you to the point and or have a light bulb moment and go, oh, actually, I need to do this thing, then do that. Like, allow that to grip you up and roll with it. You maybe you do sound terrible the first time you start. I'm sure I was. And I'm sure I probably still sound terrible to a lot of people to this day. But the more you do it, like me, more than likely, the less inclined you'll be to be worried about what anybody else thinks, and you'll just roll with doing what is authentically you and delivering it in a way that you feel comfortable with and in a way that no doubt will resonate with other people. So just keep turning up, keep staying in the fight, put one foot in front of the other, take one day at a time. Know and trust that things can do and will be better, will get better, regardless of what that is, as long as you want them to. So if you have that desire to want to get better, whether it's public speaking in this case, or whether it's whatever it is, just get after it. Keep tuning up, stay consistent, stay disciplined, and I promise you, good things will happen. As always, go always a little further. Remember, who dares wins and who cares wins. And until the next video, there is a big mana wave coming from me to you, filled with my aroha, respect, appreciation, and gratitude for you all.